freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round one recap for this week's Wells Fargo Championship. And joining me to break it all down, it's Kyle Porter. KP, what up?
What is up? I sometimes feel like we have to talk about random stuff to fill up our time here. And today I feel like we need like 3 times as much time to talk about everything that's going on right now. And most of it has to do with Phil Mickelson.
It certainly does. Let's get into it. Philip Alfred Mickelson atop the leaderboard. Did you know his middle name was Alfred?
I did. I've used it before. Yeah.
I've just learned that today. 7 under.
Do you know what DJ's middle name is?
I thought his name was, hold on.
You thought it was DJ Johnson?
Yes, DJ. I couldn't think of it. DJ Johnson. I could not think of it, but yes, DJ Johnson. No, what is it?
So good. Hunter.
Dustin Hunter
Big Game
Johnson.
Hunter.
Oh,
Yeah.
There you go. Perfect fit.
That's great.
Opening round 64 for Phil Mickelson. 1 bogey on the card, 8 under. He was phenomenal with the irons. He was great off the tee. He gained strokes in all 4 major categories in KP. If you've been paying attention, I don't think this should be that much of a surprise. We have seen trends from Phil Mickelson where the game is starting to turn around. And really the only question was focus. That is what he told us. He was having trouble focusing. Other than that, the game's been pretty sharp.
Yeah, the first time it really kind of popped up was Honda or maybe Players for a little bit, I think. So yes, it's not shocking that he hit the ball well. Here's what is shocking, and I thought the guys on the broadcast, I think it was Faldo and maybe Terry Gannon, maybe Trevor Immelman, were like cackling over, I don't know if you heard this, but just howling over how like strategic and smart Phil was playing the course. And it's like he was hitting 3 woods in great spots. He was leaving himself uphill putts, all these different things that you're like, well, this isn't really how Phil has generally done it over the course of his career. And it wasn't, I mean, he made some putts for sure, but he had, I think I looked it up, 6 birdie looks inside of 6 feet. I think that was the number. And he made all of them. And you're like, well, yeah, I mean, that's how you go out and shoot 64 in the first round. So it was awesome. And it was fun. And it seemed it felt like a Bryson or a John Rahm or a Xander round in that you're like, oh, yeah, of course he shot 64. Like, that's just how he played. And Phil's rounds, even when he shoots 64, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like just all over the planet. And it was just very straightforward. It's a little disconcerting how straightforward it was.
Okay, so does that make you optimistic about his staying power near the top of the leaderboard? Like, I don't know if Phil Mickelson is going to win this golf tournament. Probably not, right? I'd say someone else is going to win this golf tournament, but is he going to play well for the rest of the week based on what we have seen, not only leading up to this event, his last 6 or 7 starts, not only knowing how he has played historically at Quail Hollow, but then seeing it here on Thursday where he kind of managed his way around, did a good job. Are you optimistic about him keeping his name on the first page?
I mean, I think so, right? Like it's round 1 plus 10 top 10s and 17 tries at Quail Hollow. I think the worry. So I don't know what to make of this focus thing. Like, what is he bored? Is it like
he's old, Kyle? He's 50.
Yeah. Do you know how many 50-year-olds have won on tour?
I looked it up before. He would be like the 8th or 9th, I think. Right.
He would be the 8th. He wouldn't be the oldest. Sam Snead won at 52. But
yeah.
Listen, Phil just needed the 100 mil on the table, like we saw earlier this week, and he needed to ratchet up the leverage a little bit. Did you want to jump in there before I say something I shouldn't? Or?
No, I want you to say whatever you want to say.
No, I'm halfway joking. I tweeted out a few photos, but there was apparently an offer. This was in the Telegraph, an offer of 100 mil to Phil Mickelson to come to this Super Golf League, whatever. I don't even know what it's called anymore. And you know, he's just turning up the leverage. It's not even really about the Wells Fargo. It's about gaining leverage, off market leverage is what Phil's trying to get right now.
The price has gone up. Phil's people are making phone calls as we speak because the price is going up. So he's 7 under 64. KH Lee in the clubhouse at 66. We still have Keegan Bradley out on the golf course. He has one more hole to play. And then we've got a plethora of names here that I don't know how awe-inspiring they are, KP. It's Peter Malnati, Tommy Fleetwood's here, Luke List, Gary Woodland, Keith Mitchell. I'm not sure how serious any of those guys are as contenders for the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think Fleetwood's interesting. He didn't play very well at the end of last year. I haven't looked at his numbers for the start of 2021, but it seems like he's been playing better. I'd have to dig into kind of some of his strokes gained stuff a little bit more, but none of these guys, I mean, Woodland's been, you know, whatever. Keegan's been playing well. I think he's interesting.
Keegan is one of the best players on tour right now. I'm like in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, just the tee to green stuff, the putting that he's figured out. I mean, we don't even have the strokes gained metrics from Zurich where him and Brendan Steele finished 4th. People will look at last week as a failure. I look at it and say huge success. And if he continues to play like I've actually said this sentence this week, if he continues to play like he did last week, he is going to be on the first page a lot. That is the exact blueprint for Keegan Bradley.
Yeah. For sure. By the way, Phil gained this is Data Golf, 7.8 strokes at the time we're taping this. He was plus 1.5 or better in every single category.
That'll get the job done.
That does not, I mean, that doesn't happen for anybody. It definitely doesn't happen for Phil. And KH Lee was plus 6 putting. That's not a great sign because he was negative everywhere else. Hunter Mahan, how about him? -3.
Saw that. Played well. There was a couple of guys that popped up there for at least a minute. 7.8 strokes gained for Phil would be his best round in my database. That goes back to 2015. So at least 6 years, his previous best. 6.8 at the opening round of the Valero in 2015.
Does that include Troon in 16?
No, because the open numbers don't come over.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, like, that makes sense. And you know, the crazy part, and I was kind of writing about this, I've got a recap going, but it's such a deep, like, good field. And for him to contend and potentially win a tournament that he's never won at age 50, it's pretty crazy. I think it would be kind of I don't know. I mean, sometimes all we care about is the majors. I feel like this would be kind of a big deal.
I certainly think it would be, especially when we talked about this when he had his birthday. There was a lot of conversation like if he wins again, he'd be the 8th guy to ever do it. And when you put yourself on that short of a list for a game that has the history that it has, I think it's a big deal. And you talked about the strength of this field. That's kind of the other plot here is that Max Homa for the majority of his day was DFL. He finished with a 77. That's 6 over. John Rahm, not much better, 5 over 76. Tony Finau, a couple over par. The big names not really doing much, and they're going to have magical Fridays if they want to find the weekends.
I think, I mean, you're right. For sure. Rory wasn't great. I watched most of his, kind of the back 9 of his round. You know what would be fun? I was just thinking about is a JT. Remember when JT and Phil were in that playoff in Mexico?
Is that the one where JT's ball almost got stepped on?
I mean, probably
by the
stuff that happens at that course is like it's off the rails. That was such a fun event because there was nobody had any idea what was going to happen. That was the tournament where JT holed out on the 72nd hole.
Right.
And then they played 1 or 2 playoff holes, and Phil beat him. JT missed like not a super long putt. It was kind of weird, like the way it ended. But I think JT Phil at Quail Hollow, because they both had just great success there, would be pretty awesome. JT there's a reason he's still the favorite, right? You tweeted this morning. You're hollering about him winning.
Well, when the guy goes out and says, "You're never that far off, especially with the putter," and we know what he did last week, losing 6.5 strokes. Like, yeah, this is the guy. And you're right. Our friends over at William Hill still have him as the favorite. Did William Hill get a new website? Mine looks a lot different than Jacob's does on there. Anyway, Justin Thomas 9-1, Phil Mickelson 9-1. Co-favorites Phil and JT. We might get that final pairing on Sunday. Keegan Bradley 10-1, Victor Hovland and Bryson DeChambeau at 12. Bryson made birdie on his last hole, so he finished at, I believe, 1 under. Yeah, 1 under 70. So those are the favorites for the rest of the way.
Did you see what Victor said about Quail Hollow?
He described it as a driving range or something.
he said driving range golf. Like, he's like, it's not narrow or wide. You just hit it far and go hit it again. And it was kind of, I mean, they played a major there. I don't really disagree with him. It was just kind of a drive-by early on in the week.
How does that differ than most weeks though? Like, you hit it and you go find it. I guess he's talking about because it's not wide or not narrow, but like, how is this that much different than most of the other courses that they play?
I think I agree. It's obviously different than like a US Open or, an Open Championship or an Augusta or what. I guess it's not that different than Augusta, but I think he's just talking about like he felt like it lacked strategy. And I guess that makes sense because we see guys that hit it a long way have a lot of success here, like Rory. Who else has won here? Help me out. Tiger won here.
Yeah. Day.
Jason Day. There you go. So yeah, I don't know. I think all those guys. I think it's fascinating that Phil and JT are the same number, and that Phil is. I like if that was Stuart Sink, who shot, well, that's a bad example. Who's somebody that's in their 50s that could have gone out and shot 64? If that was Jim Furyk, would he be 9-1? I feel like that's a little bit of a name deal, right?
Yeah, Phil Fowler, Tiger always like more public than they should be, so always shorter than they should be. I agree with you. Furyk would not be like the favorite in the situation, or at least not be co-favorites with JT. JT would be shorter.
If you had to pick somebody on this screen right now, if you're watching on YouTube, we're looking, or if you're listening, I guess we're looking at the top, 20 guys. Who would you put some nugs on?
Keegan's
really?
Keegan's, yeah, he's knocking. Keegan's doing it. Keegan is laying the blueprint. He's won before. He was just in the heat of it last week. I like that. And the other one would be probably Corey Connors, who was plus 4.5 strokes from tee to green and lost a stroke and a half on the greens. And he's just been, and I don't think people realize, and I didn't even realize it until I kind of dug in on this week. If you basically, however you want to sort the strokes gained off the tee numbers for the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 rounds, it's Bryson and then it's Corey Connors. He's that good.
Yeah, he's been awesome. Did you see Jason Duffner's strokes gained stuff on Thursday?
I saw that. I had to double check. I didn't think it was right. He gained 5.5 on approach and then punted 4 on the greens.
Yeah, and he was a 0. He was basically 0 off the tee and around the greens. That seems like that's the one you should check your database for. That seems impossible. Like both those numbers. Did he miss like 4 2-footers? I mean, I don't understand how that's even feasible.
He had to. I mean, he kind of did this. Okay, so it was not as exaggerated, but he lost 4.7 in. So now he's oh my God. Okay, so he lost 4.7 in the final round at Valspar, and another 4.2 today. So in back-to-back rounds, he's lost over 4 strokes putting.
It's like one Keith Mitchell round, right?
That's right. One Keith Mitchell rounds, 2 Jason Duffner rounds. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to take a break because we got to come back and talk about what the heck is going on in the world of golf between the PGL, the SGL. Are they different? Are they the same? And what that means for the PGA Tour. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. It's been a couple of months, KP, I guess, since we've talked about the PGL, the premier golf league, this outside external threat to the PGA Tour that is willing to throw money at some of the bigger names to get them to come over and play what is essentially a 18 event schedule. There might be a team aspect of it. The details get blurry after that. But then we also have this new resurgence this week about the Saudis trying to get involved in this, which is apparently not the PGL. It is the SGL, the Super Golf League. And there was an article from Alan Shipnuck who kind of went into this on the Fire Pit Collective about how this is different, how it's the same. But at the end of the day, it is throwing a lot of money at the top players to try to break off and do their own thing.
Yeah, it was interesting because from what I understood before I read the Shipnuck piece, and it was well reported, there was a lot in there about the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia, which was interesting. I don't know if it was super relevant to kind of the conversation that we're having. I guess it's relevant. People should go read it. But I think it, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had been conflated. I had always thought that there was just one league, right? Like it was, and I didn't know, like it was like, well, it's funded by these guys and these guys, but not these guys. And I was like, I don't really care who it's funded by, I guess. I mean, I do care. I don't care that it had changed, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I don't care if somebody dropped out and somebody else is fronting the money. It's not really a huge deal to me. But then when Shipnuck kind of framed it as like, hey, the PGL, this Premier Golf League is, I think he wrote American and European backers, investors, banks. I don't, again, it doesn't really matter to me. And the Super Golf League, which was the information that came out this week, is essentially all these for lack of a better term, higher ups in the Saudi government and representatives from over there. And those are actually competing against each other. That actually does matter. And that like pitting those two things against each other is one, good for the PGL, which again is the American and European side, because it makes them look a lot more attractive to
and
you and legitimate to you and I, to players, to whoever. And it like the separation of those two entities definitely matters. And I hope that people can kind of read between the lines of why it matters. And Shipnuck laid it out, but I think it's very important.
There's a quote in the Shipnuck article, and he's quoting a PGL investor that says, quote, "They 100% stole our idea," end quote, which is when I realized that these were two different things because I was not treating them that way beforehand.
Yeah, and stole our idea is kind of like, well, I mean, okay. It's not like you invented, the iPhone or whatever.
Okay.
Facebook. This isn't Facebook. You're not the Winklevoss twins. Or maybe they are. Maybe
they actually might be. I don't know.
maybe that's who the PGL is. But when I was reading what he wrote and he laid out the PGL stuff, I was like, oh, that sounds like something I would be interested in. It was this 18 tournament schedule and 48 guys, but like the team, and we had known a lot of that. But when you again, like, this is a win for the PGL, because when you pit it against like, hey, there's a bunch of money flowing out of Saudi Arabia, literally and figuratively, by these guys that are maybe not the people you want to get in bed with, suddenly this PGL thing looks way more attractive than it used to.
You can money grab Saudi blood oil money, or you can money grab investor banking European money. Like, it's still a money grab, right? Rory's quote is still true. I mean, whether it is the PGL, whether it is the SGL, I think it's a fairly significant threat that is not going away to the PGA Tour. I think that the defense that the PGA is trying to put up are these little things to guarantee players more money. And I don't think that the current crop of players, and I could be wrong, outside of maybe Rory McIlroy, care as much about the prestige of those that came before them that wouldn't be solved with $50 million.
Well, Brendan Porath brought this up on the Shotgun Start podcast. It's like, we're talking about prestige, and then we're also talking about like the FedEx Cup.
Right.
And it's like, well, that was invented like what,
15 years ago.
Yeah. And so I actually feel like it makes it a little bit more dangerous, I think, that there's actually two entities, because the Saudi thing, again, like it almost enhances what the PGL is offering. Because I think even earlier this week, I think we were all like, nah, I don't know, like the Saudis, and like this feels like just, I don't know. It feels weird. It feels like a pipe dream. It feels like kind of a non-starter. And now you're like, I don't know. I mean, I think it matters that if you look at PGA Tour, Augusta National, USGA, RNA, PGA of America, if those are your 5 entities, and the other 4 that are not the PGA Tour could just come out and say, hey, if you go here, you're not playing in our events, then it's all over. Like, that's it. That's the end. But they haven't. And I don't know why. Like, I really don't know why. And I think that, I don't know. It feels like we are going to continue to talk about this in maybe more realistic ways over the next few months and years.
Yeah,
and
because there is.
How about this? Real quick. Sorry. DJ Piehowski, I think he tweeted this out. I hope he tweeted this out. Was talking about how, like, the PGL can start even if they don't get the top 50 guys in the world. Right? You can build it up in Asia or Europe or wherever, and then in 20 years, maybe it's like a big deal, right? Like, I think we think of like these leagues as like, oh, well, the NBA will just go on forever. Maybe the NFL will just go on forever. I mean, probably, but maybe not. Like, they've only been around for 50 years. So we act like these leagues have been around for and will go on for into eternity. And that's just not true.
I made that argument a couple of days ago where it was like, we have a somewhat recent example of this, the NFL and the AFL, right? Like that is 50 years old. That is not that long ago that now the largest sport that we have in America, football, the NFL, only existed, starting 50 years ago. And I think that's a good point. You could prove the concept with the PGL. I think that here's the scary part. Here is what would be incredibly attractive for the PGL is if you could have an 18 event schedule plus the 3 marquee events, right? Like, they could go play the Masters, they could go play the Open Championship. Like, I'm not sure. I think that would be very enticing to a lot of players. And I don't know who you need and how many you need for it to be a big deal, but like, that would be pretty enticing.
Well, and if you're saying, hey, we're going to play 54 hole events, and you're not going to have to slog your way through, I'm not going to say every time I say a city, I get,
say a city right now.
I'm not going to say any city, but you're not like, slogging your way through the humidity at any place in.
Now the weather people are going to come after you for knocking humidity. You know how valuable that is to our ecosystem?
You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing, though. The PGA Tour has a couple things going for it. One is safety, right? And if we know anything about these about professional golfers, they are risk averse, right? Yeah. Like, they do not like risk. They do not like exposure. That's why there's so few guys that it's just they don't like risk, and this is a risky thing. And the other thing is that I was thinking about is it's a little bit like. And I don't know if this is something the PGA Tour has going for it, or I don't know what this is. It's just a thought I had. It feels a little like the BCS against like a playoff system. Not the BCS, excuse me, the bowl system versus a playoff system. Jacob can hit the drop on that if we want to do the playoffs.
He's asleep at
the playoffs. So it's the bowl system against the playoff system. The bowl system is insane. Like, it's a free-for-all. It's a circus. And the playoff system, you're like, okay, well, there's order to that. It makes sense. But you know what, like, has kind of happened over the course of the playoff system is the bowl thing is kind of more fun, right? Like you look back at the bowl stuff and you're like, I don't know, that was kind of like goofy and crazy and fun. And I think that, I mean, there's a million different things that you could talk about with what's going on with all this stuff. But sometimes, like, is what the PGA Tour is doing perfect? No, of course not. Could it be improved? Yes, always. But it's also like, I don't know, man. Like, I have fun with all this from week to week, you know? And is that true in the middle of the summer when we're doing something on Colonial and there's nobody playing? Yeah, maybe not. But I don't know that the evolution of it is necessarily better. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. But I think there's some the next thing is not always the best thing. And I think that's something to keep in mind. And I don't know how you like voice that as the tour. I don't know if you even can. I think some players are kind of hitting on it a little bit, but they're not getting to the heart of it. And I don't know. I think that's one thing that there's a ton of flaws with everything that happens in professional golf on all tours, PGA Tour, European Tour, whatever. But it's worked really well also, and it's been a lot of fun. So I don't know. Does that resonate? Like, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there is. It's like when you have a buddy who's an idiot and you can call him an idiot, but nobody else can call him an idiot because he's our buddy and he's our idiot. It's like it's our quirky system. It's the way that we do it. We still love it. We know it has its flaws and all that stuff. I get that. And I think and I think the PGA Tour, listen, I'm a huge advocate for competition. I think we have already seen the PGA Tour having to start to be a bit more flexible. I have a lot of issues with the tour, the way they handle their data, the way they've handled their social media, the way they haven't showed a bad shot, but they have started to go in the right direction on a lot of these things, and being pushed that way is never a bad thing. Like I'm in favor of threats. I think that's good. At the end of the day, we're going to get a better product. The PGA Tour still to this point has Rory McIlroy in their corner, which is the most valuable asset that they have. And as long as they keep him happy, they're probably going to keep this monopoly that they have. But I like outside threats given a little kick in the butt. I'm cool with that.
It's a great call. It's a great point. And somebody else brought this up, but like the you know who is like the big winner in all this is the four majors, because the way that everybody's talking about all this stuff is it revolves around the majors, right? Yeah. Oh, well, you can't do this because of the Ryder Cup or the Masters. You can't do this because the US Open. And it's like their status has they haven't even done anything. I mean, they've literally done nothing. Yeah. And it's been elevated, you know, maybe minutely so, but they've kind of walked away the winners in this last few weeks of discussion.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There is probably going to be many more weeks of discussion, and it seems like this information is changing rapidly. And we went through a time where there was no talk about the PGL, and it's ramping up. So I don't think this is the last conversation we are going to have about that. But KP, before we wrap up our Wells Fargo Championship Round 1 recap / Super League PGL talk, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Keegan's in at 5 under, so he's tied to KH Lee. So Phil remains 2. It's going to be fun. I mean, I hope it's Phil and JT. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
The forecast is not great for the afternoon, guys, on Friday. Winds are coming. If that stays up, it is going to be white knuckling it around the course all day on Friday. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. I think that'll do it. Producer Jacob, thank you very much. Doing all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there, that's Kyle Porter. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Porter CBS. You can follow me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut, and we'll catch you next time.